Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome back to Next Gen Dems. We are sitting here with Rasheen Aldridge.
What's up, brother?
And what's going on, man? It's been a while.
It's been a minute.
It's been a while since I've done this show. It's been a while since you've had an opportunity to do a podcast, and we're making sure that the message gets out there, making sure that the words are heard. And we want to talk definitely about your story. Before we get into the whole interview aspect, we are live. You're like tilted and sideways, just to let you know. There you go. There you go. You could do the flip thing and do it on the other side, I think.
Trying to figure that out.
Yeah, all right.
Oh, it's a little at the bottom. It's a little. I think it's the second one.
We are live and in living color here at the Missouri Democratic Party office here on 3332 North 19th Street.
Yep.
And this is Next Gen Dems. You can find us on iTunes. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Facebook, all over Facebook and the Twitterverse. And we haven't done a show in quite some time, about 2.5 months or so. And we're here for a big return show, and I'm glad to have you on, man. So we're going to get right into you. What brought you into this world? Where did you start from? How did you get here? And tell us a little bit about the life story and the opening few chapters of the Book of Rasheen.
Well, first off, I'm glad to be here. I've seen you just not too long ago at the St. Charles Progressive Democrat. So good to see you again. Glad to be on Next Gen. So a little bit about me, how I got into this work and to trying to change the world in 80 days like we all are, especially under this administration. It seems like in 10 days. But so actually when I was inside my mom, I always tell people some way, somehow I was going to be active, just the way I was inside of her. So when I was inside of her, I laid on my right leg, so I didn't get proper blood flow to my right leg. So what ultimately ended up happening is my right leg grew shorter than my left leg. So that made me have to, when I came out, I was coming out butt first. So telling the world already, kiss my butt, I'm going to be a rebel rouser, and just get ready for it. I was trying to come out butt first. I had to get a C-section. But what ended up happening, since I didn't get that proper blood flow, my right leg didn't keep up with my left leg, and it grew shorter, so they end up turning the foot around backwards to play as a knee to bend and kick. So on my right side, I got a full-length prosthetic, and my rear leg is inside of it, and it stops about a little below my knee on my left side above my shin. And when I take my leg off, I hop around the house all the time, so I'm never not being active. But I think what it was for me at an early age was...
Wait. But that doesn't stop you now. We're going to get back into it, but that doesn't stop you now from getting active, being an activist,
Nope.
being an active member of the party to the point where you're running this office.
Yeah.
So kudos to you, absolutely, for that. That just goes to show that regardless of any I don't even want to say disability, man, because there is no way that anybody could have known for the most part.
Funny thing is, it's people that I know actually for years that, or even months that I'll meet, and they'll probably see me with a limp. They're like, "Oh, I just thought you had, I thought you just had like a bum knee or something." And then like months go on, and like, "You're still limping. What's going on?" So it's like you say, folks, don't know. And also, I'm the type, I'm not like super religious or anything, but I do know that, my situation is fairly better than, my other brothers and sisters that have issues with, if it's prosthetics on their arms or legs or in wheelchairs that, I can get around pretty well. That didn't stop me in Ferguson marching literally all night until my leg gave out on me and I had to get a new prosthetic. But that's a different story. But
no, that's this story. Let's talk about that, man. I mean, you went from overcoming that to moving into the world of activism.
Yeah.
How did you make that leap? What brought you to that? Who were some of the people that really inspired you in order to make that leap?
It was at an early age. It was like these special lenses I had on. So I went to Parkway, but I lived in the city. So all the way from kindergarten to 12th grade, I would go to the Parkway School District and have to commute 30 miles out, wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. But it was something about...
Rough.
Yeah, it was it was terrible. But now I'm just used to like being up early. But from kindergarten all the way to 12th grade, it is a process. But it was something about, eventually once I got old enough to kind of realize that something wasn't right, when I would be in my own neighborhood and in my own community, not having the same things that was out in Parkway. Once I was able to, like, spend a night over my white friend's house or Indian friend's house and actually seeing their community and seeing how, you can just walk down the street and the air tastes better and the grass is much greener. But when I would come back home,
and things are cleaned up,
and opportunity,
and it's not even that. Their parents had like popsicles, and they had a pool,
Seriously,
maybe,
yeah,
things that we weren't used to as kids.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The little essential things that a playground or like you say, a pool in the backyard. And then I would come back to my neighborhood and be like, why don't we have these same?
This is much different.
Yeah. So I think at an early age, I didn't know it, but I was already challenging and questioning, saying I want these same things in my neighborhood. I want the same things in my community. And a lot of it, I would have to say, was my mom, just being active in the neighborhood, working with the previous alderwoman before, and we'll get to that. Before we got the current one, Miss Hubbard. April 4 Griffin was a bad woman, like bad A woman. Women are bad A's in general, right? But just working.
But she was nasty before nasty was cool. Is that
what
you're saying?
She was nasty, fabulous before anybody was saying it was cool. So it was pretty much my mom that got me engaged, and then I wanted to. I know at that age, I wanted to do something in the community, but during high school. And I knew that meant that I needed to probably go to college, but I also knew that my family wasn't fortunate to have, a bunch of money. So I went to trade school, and
what trade school?
I went to South Tech. So half a day at Parkway, and then a half a day at South Tech, taking up heating and cooling. I was like, because I'm not going to do the whole student debt train. Like my brother has it, my mom has it. So I'm gonna just go right after high school, make some money, go in this field, and then I looked at myself. So I'm not that, not that type of fit of a guy to be lifting ACs all day. And, with this prosthetic, not saying it would stop me, but, also probably be a...
Air conditioners are heavy.
Yeah, just a little bit. I'm not weak now, I'm just saying. But to lift him all the time, is a lot. So eventually I ended up, saying, screw this, and went to Forest Park after high school, and then started getting involved with some community organizations like Missouri Jobs with Justice, OBS, Organization for Black Struggle, and then became a director of my own organization called Young Activists United.
Gotcha. So did that lead you into, is it the award you got last year, was it Young Democrat of the Year?
Yep. Young Democrat of
the Year. And that's not just in Missouri, right?
It's from the Missouri Democratic Party.
I don't mean to lessen it. That was in the entire state of Missouri.
I'll take it.
Yeah, absolutely. So he is the top young Democrat of 2017.
2017. This year was Lauren Arthur, so that's somebody I'd definitely love to pass it off to. She's such another bad A woman in the state. Yeah, youngest state senator.
Youngest state senator. We got the youngest state senator. We got the youngest party chair.
Yeah.
Or at least we did for a while. I don't know.
Yes, Stephen's young.
Maybe, but he might be aging out. There's some young party chairs. Yeah. I'm telling you, that's what's happening. That's beautiful. It is beautiful, and that's what we're covering here on Next Gen Dems. We're covering the next generation of Democrats, and it's also it's not an age thing.
Mm-mm.
It's not an age thing because there are new people that are empowered, that are ready to get out here and ready to make some change, and they know who stands with them, and even if it's sometimes difficult debates within this party, the other party is always going to be a much worse option, and so they're getting involved in the Democratic Party, even though they never have been before. They're seeing the option to make a change. They see the horrible things that are happening on the other side with GOP in control, GOP supermajority in Missouri, and so they're getting involved.
Yeah.
They're getting involved. People who have been lifelong independents, people who have been lifelong pseudo-libertarians. Are saying, okay, we got to work together. We got to work together.
And one thing that you said, I think that's the coolest thing that our party is doing is really trying to figure out the ones that haven't been engaged, right? If they've been independents or if they've been not part of the process for whatever reason. But I think, when me and Bruce was running, one of the cool things, we did was really tap into folks that just never been tapped into at all, like never voted, just, didn't feel there was a need to. There's a lot of, issues that people go through on a day-to-day, being a single mom, 9 to 5, to stay alive. And the system can be a lot, so sometimes you feel like you're never winning. So
you also feel like your voice and your vote doesn't matter, and we can't allow that anymore. We can't have that. But
it's changing.
Yeah,
it's changing. That's the hopeful thing of it, and the wave isn't going to happen unless we create it, right? The wave isn't going to come blow all this right away unless we're actively out in the streets making it happen. And maybe it's just me being young, optimistic, but I literally see it from St. Louis all the way to like St. Peter's and St. Charles, what you guys are doing. It's happening, and that's how it's slow and it's frustrating because we need dramatic change.
Progress is slow, but it's inevitable, and we do need dramatic change.
Yeah.
But if we don't start towards that path, we'll never get there. We'll simply never get there. When I say things like solar roadways, some people are like, "Are you kidding?" We're like, "Our roads will be solar panels?" Absolutely,
yeah.
Our roads will be. And once that happens, we're going to have decentralized electricity. Ameren doesn't want that to happen.
No.
There's some things that are really unpopular in the current structure of our system, and people are going to lose money because of progress.
Of course.
And there's not a whole lot we can do about that unless we go the other route, which is regress. And that's exactly what the Republican Party's trying to do, and that's exactly what people like us are trying to fight. So goes from you being an activist, you getting involved, and starting your own organization. How does that translate into joining the Democratic Party and now being the man in charge of the St. Louis Democratic Party's office?
Yeah. So going from, like you say, the activism, getting involved with Show Me 15, a movement that is so near and dear to my heart. Look, I even have the shirt on.
And although I'd like to pause right there, 15 is a good start. Had wages kept up with inflation and productivity, we'd be sitting at about $22 an hour right now, minimum wage. Continue.
And also the 15 and the union part, we definitely need to make sure we have the union as they're trying to slice them in the horrible decision we just got.
Absolutely.
Go out and vote.
Benefits and protections. And unions are the reason that we have child labor laws, y'all. But what are we doing? What are we doing? We need to strengthen these unions. We need to strengthen collective bargaining for all people because people need to be able to come together and work and call shots that the shot callers might not want them to call.
Yeah. And going back a little bit, fast forward to when I was telling you about my leg being broke. So after high school, I got kicked off of my insurance, and I didn't have insurance for, it was quite a while, but, being young and like, I don't really, need insurance, anything like that. My prosthetic, hadn't had a new prosthetic since probably 10th grade, 2010, so 2012 and on. Over time, it started getting rough and breaking down. So during Ferguson, just with all the activism from Fight for 15 to Ferguson, my leg literally was like, as I would go out there, Allison Dreef and some other of the activists, women out there used to be like my activist mom and knew that my prosthetic was taped up literally every time I went out and would tell me, like, go sit down or you need to get it worked on. But when I ended up getting a job with the union, it was due to the union and the insurance that they had that I was able to get now the prosthetic I have on now, a new one that I don't have to worry about taping up or have to worry about, it falling apart. So unions are, it's something that everyone don't know about. We need to definitely be pushing that out, educating families more about what a union is and the benefit it has, even if you don't come from a union background. But that's why we need to make sure we go out and vote no on A. August 7th. It's important.
You heard that here. Vote no on Prop A, August 7th. They moved the date to try to fool people into not realizing that that's the date that it's going to be voted on because of how important this is. This is really corporate interest against the interest of the people. And we need to be on the side of the people. We need to be on the right side of history. And to be on the right side of history on that vote, you're going to vote no on Prop A because it's going to help everybody's wages, union wages, keep everybody's wages higher. Benefits that they've negotiated have now come into the lexicon of our worker society. So we need to make sure that we keep those strong. We need to make sure that we don't let the cats at the top dominate everyone else. We have to come together, and that's what unions are. And whatever they negotiate is going to better your workplace, regardless of if you're in a union or not. So we've got to go there. Yesterday, we got to talk a little bit about the elephant in the room. And I know we're live right now. Yesterday, there was a vote to put pro-choice or allow pro-choice candidates to run as Democrats. Pro-life. My bad. And we should stop with pro-choice. So with Democrats that did win, like a Mike Rivas, under that platform, and it's now in our party platform, even though we're going to get to some of the great things that happened yesterday and are now in our party platform, which are awesome. I want to tackle this one first. What do you feel? Where do you stand? Where do you think that people stand on this?
Yeah. Yesterday was a lot from what I've seen on social media, friends writing me, inboxing me, asking me if I've seen the actual way that we kind of amended our platform and put some new things in. I definitely need to dive deeper into everything that happened. I want to make sure I talk to all of the sides. You know, sometimes we can see on social media some of the things that took place and get kind of reactionary, and a positive reason to get reactionary because it's a lot. You know, we're under attack. The other side is always doing things to, you know, if it's our health care, if it's our economic rights, if it's our human rights, it's all under attack. So, but what took place yesterday, first, I want to say that we as a party definitely need to do whatever it takes to make sure that women's rights are protected. We as a party definitely need to make sure we do whatever it takes to make sure that women rights are not under attack, and that we stand as men, especially that we stand behind them and beside them until they tell us that they're ready for us to kick the door in, but they're capable of doing that on their own. However, this whole situation with the, you know, having pro-life candidates within our party. You know, one thing I think about that's different, the Democratic Party that makes us different than the Republican Party. Republican Party is pretty straightforward. You know, you get in line or you're out. You know, you either feel this way about poor people or you're not a Republican. I think a little bit of a benefit of within our party of being a chameleon party and being a party like our country should be a melting pot, a melting party of bringing in people of all walks of life, religions, background, ethnicities, that's beneficial, but also I think it's a lot. It's a challenge too at times. It's a challenge because you have folks that may be, you know, raised Catholic and you know,
like Mike Rivas,
and grew up in an area that believes certain things when it comes to women. You know, maybe not direct abortion or you know, when it comes to women, right, there's a lot of different things that, you know, if birth control, right? So maybe if not, you know, they're fully against abortion, but they believe we shouldn't have birth control, right? I think that it's
a slippery slope.
It's a slippery slope, and it's so challenging because you don't, you know, we need to make sure we're protecting the ones that are under attack. And how do we go about it and bring people in that may have different opinions, but not selling out our values as Democrats, right? And not selling out the reason people come to the Democratic Party because they believe that the other side feels that they shouldn't have this, or the other side feels that the rights that we should be granted as U.S. citizens shouldn't be granted to us. So it's a challenge, and I'm curious and willing and wanting to learn and figure out how do we move forward, how do we address these issues, but I want us to do it in a way where we're not being true to who we are. And I'm still looking at.
You don't want us to do it in a way that we're not being true to.
Yeah, well, we're not. Well, right. We are still being true to who we are. Sorry about right. that. Being the party that fights for everyday people, that fights for when they're telling us, especially men, they're saying, you know, women rights are important and women rights are shouldn't be the rights that we should be fighting for. We should be fighting back against that. We should be saying, hey, one, they're not telling us what to do with our special parts, right? So we have no place to be telling them what to be doing. And the biggest thing is always men that really pisses me off. It's not our place, and our place is to be supportive. So, and I know that was a lot, but back to your main part. Yesterday, I hope it's an opportunity for us to figure out how to move forward and man,
it's a tough one.
It's a tough one.
It's a tough one.
It's a tough one because
there's a lot of nuances involved. Because I mean, I don't want to hold it against a guy like Mike Rivas, who grew up under that belief. As long as they're not going to vote against a woman's right to their own reproductive choices, you know what I mean? If they're going to join our party, that's a certain thing that you've got to get behind. You have to support women, plain and simple. And I think that's a real slippery slope in the way that I've explained that standpoint to women friends of mine, and they've said that that's too close. That's something that we can't take a chance on. And I get that. I understand that. Yeah. You know, I have to go with that. But there's the other nuance of, and we'll get to that. Is there a question? Or?
No, I'm being informed that the word candidates was not mentioned in the amendment, that it was potentially written to attract pro-life but Democratic-leaning voters.
Well, there we go again. I mean, that was the first meeting since I've gotten involved in the party since I was elected to the state committee that I've missed, and a whole lot didn't go right yesterday, so we weren't able to make it. If that's the case, I see what they're doing. I don't have to approve of it. I see that they're trying to reach those suburban voters, and in a way, it seems like they're selling out women because we need to be fighting for their rights. We need to be fighting for all rights. But and in order to win some people who may be leaning the other side, they're going this direction. And I don't understand why it went into the party platform. So yeah, this was definitely a meeting that I should have went to, and unfortunately wasn't able to. But here's the thing: is that it's kind of what primaries are for. So if Democrats in that area don't agree with that person, they need to run someone against that person and defeat them. And that goes across the board. If you don't agree with the people who are representing you, run people against them and unseat them. It's that simple. That's how democracy works. And yes, I get that there's a lot of entrenched money. I get that there's a lot of issues with that. It's definitely not that cut and dry. But I can tell you, as someone who has run for office now on my second try in an area that is very pro-life, that I do personally lose a lot of people on that single issue, just because I feel that women should have the freedom of their own reproductive rights. And I don't understand how someone who believes in freedom of their own personal rights in every other respect doesn't respect that. I don't get it. But they don't understand where I'm coming from either. And those are some voters I'm just not going to win. If they're that single-issue voter, I'm just not going to win them. But you would be surprised at how many people just shut me down because of that one thing. So we got to understand that we're in areas of varying beliefs, multiple viewpoints, and what may work in one area doesn't work in the other. However, we still have to try to turn out voters for those people who are running on the ideals that matter to us the most. So we've got to get, if there's not enough voters who are voting in those areas, we got to get better turnout. We got to get more people voting in the way that is going to respect the rights of women. And in order to do that, we've just got to make it happen. Right? We got to knock doors, we got to make phone calls, and the people who are in those areas need to start getting out and being heard and fighting back. and that's the only real way we're going to be able to push back on that, I think.
Yeah, like it's a tough one, like you said, because one, our first and ultimate stance is one thing, that we support women and protecting their rights to do whatever they want with their body. It's their body, it's their choice, right? It's not
right.
our body. We should not be doing anything. We should not be dictating the way that they or what they do with their body. But I'm young, but I'm learning. But like you said, one thing I've learned being in this position with the Missouri Democratic Party is looking, as you look throughout the whole state, it's in certain areas, some tend to be a lot more heavy voice on, in a positive way, on protecting women's rights. But when you go throughout, the states in certain areas, like you said, it's some people on certain issues, that's the end all be all.
I wasn't shaking my head no at you.
Yeah. I seen the amazing one over there. But in certain areas, that is the only only issue that certain people care about, especially in certain rural areas. So how do we once again not lose who we are, but maybe could tailor our message,
and bridge that gap, so to speak.
Yeah, and instead of not, because we're losing them, and we don't want to lose them because they're not Republicans, but they may have certain feel, whatever it's their religion or what about this issue or whatever the issue is. So how do we, like you say, be that bridge? But ultimately, that bridge, if you're going to walk across that bridge, you still understand that this bridge is a bridge that stands strong behind women, that will protect women, and that will fight for women, but we're willing to talk and have conversations. Or one thing I think, like I say, the Republican side do is, if you're not with it, we're not with you. We just shut you down. And how do we not do that, but how do we not sell out at the same time?
Yeah. And that's, one difference that a lot of people may not see within the parties is, yes, I get that we're a big tent party. Some people would say that not everyone should be allowed in the tent. Mm-hmm. But on the other side, if you don't believe what they believe, you are definitely not allowed in the tent. Oh, yeah. Not only are you not allowed in the tent, but they're going to attack you relentlessly until you find another tent or pull yourself up by your bootstraps and get out of their area. So how do we maneuver around that, you think? What do you think are some solutions? Just tailoring the message correctly to the area, but still with a firm, we are going to fight for women. This is a party that stands for the rights of all women and all people.
It's tough, because I know even for the issue like that, that's an issue like that is really strong, and women are very passionate about something like that. And if we said something like Black Lives Matter, I'm gonna be real, right? It's hard for me to say, and I understand when you get on those rural areas that you have to change it, but knowing that that's an issue that's really near and dear to my heart, being affected by it, it would be hard for me to see a candidate kind of, tailor their message on Black Lives Matter, but
or against it, you mean?
Against it, or in a way that, saying weakens it, because I think what you're getting from some of these Democratic candidates or in the rural areas, may be with, not or supporting women and making sure that we fight against women being getting their rights taken away, but however understand they may have to water down their message, or can't be so in the St. Louis area, right? We can be very vocal about it. All folks should be vocal about it, but in certain areas of our state, we're still back in timing, and people just grew up differently, and I respect that. I can't, I don't maybe agree with it.
There's a lot of problems with how people and maybe the media that they pay attention to that spins them in a direction to believe something that it's not. So if you listen to Fox News or if you listen to Hannity,
Fox.
And of course you don't. I go out of my way to get away from them. But people in rural Missouri might not. People in rural Missouri might listen to Alex Jones too.
Mm-hmm.
And if they hear that message, all of a sudden to them, Black Lives Matter is a terrorist organization, because that's the things that they're being told, because that's the thing that Sean Hannity and Rush Limbaugh and all these cats are out there regurgitating daily, pounding them with it. So if they don't ever turn the channel, they're not ever getting a different message.
And if they don't have conversations, like you say, also with folks like us that like telling them the truth about it, right? So it's a process thing, and it's a being able to wake them up, and sometimes you probably have to start with where they are, and just keep cracking that ceiling and keep cracking it, and and hopefully it changes. But going back to your question, real quick answer, I do think it's a little bit of, even though I don't fully agree with it or like it, I do think in certain areas we have to, like you say, tailor the message a little bit, but we have to not sell out, and we as the voters have to do our job, is holding them accountable. And even if we're not in their districts, right? If they say they're with women and they stand behind women when the bill comes up and they're trying to take women's rights away, we'll see how they vote. We'll be able to hold them accountable, and we'll also be able to support them too in their districts, in their area when the vote comes and when they stand with women. So
that's a perfect answer, and I absolutely stand by that too. But some of our women friends would say that's a chance they're not willing to take. But then not completely looking at the other side, who is telling you they're going to vote against you, who is telling you that they're going to try to take your rights. So, I mean, baby steps, but like I said, like we said, progress takes time. I think that was a step in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
I think that was not progress.
Wish it could have been done probably a little differently. Yeah,
I think so too. What are some of the good things that came out of yesterday? We should have it listed up, but we absolutely don't. Go ahead. Do we have a question?
Yes, actually.
All right.
Given all of this, somebody was pointing on how we need to educate the electorate, obviously by strengthening education and people's access to higher education. But with all of that, what can people do to get involved, to talk to people, to make these things happen? Especially here at the office, Rasheen, what can they do when they come here to help spread the message and help educate the electorate?
Happy that person, whoever that person is, asked that question, because one of the goals of the
Give
office.
Give him a shout out. Who was that?
Who was that?
It was Shelly.
Hey, Shelly!
Shelly! What's happening?
Shelly Belly.
She is one of our sheroes.
Oh, another badass woman.
She is an amazing person.
It's so many amazing women across the state. That's why,
Picture of her, Holly, and Annie yesterday. I was like, that needs to be a painting.
I would take that somewhere in the office. Shelly and Annie, just paint it up.
Somebody take that picture and blow it up for us. We want it in the office.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But no, I'm happy Shelly asked that question, because one of the, being tasked to lead this office, which I'm honored and grateful of, one of the things that I want to do within this office is kind of these 3 points: educate, engage, oh crap, I forgot it. Educate, engage, and empower. Because I feel like the biggest issue, and
the 3 E's.
The 3 E's. I'm working on it. I feel like the biggest issue that we have as a party in general is we're not educating the folks that are not usually participating in the process. We only worry about the frequent voters. We only worry about the ones that are always going to go out right. But we could be actually winning. We actually could be, having a huger force of an army if we educate the ones that, don't know so much about, minimum wage or women's rights. And it's not their fault, but, sometimes the books aren't just slammed in front of your face. A lot of the things that I know now is because of people just mentoring me and believing in me, but it wasn't honestly me always sitting down saying, oh, I hear about this, or I hear about that, I hear about what right to work is, so I'm going to go look it up, right? No, I got other things going on. So one thing I'm excited with this office, what we've been trying to do is we're running one program, but we'll be here for a year to really test out a lot of stuff. But we're running a commit to vote card, which is talking about 3 issues that are going to be coming up on the election in August and November. And then after, hopefully...
Hit those 3 issues?
Those 3 issues: minimum wage increasement, which the party has fully got behind, endorsed, voting against the right to work and making sure we stand behind working families.
No on Prop A.
No on A, and that one is in August 7th. The minimum wage will be in November, and also the Clean Ballot Initiative that is trying to make sure we get big money out of politics. You mentioned that earlier, how money's dictating the way that we do things. We need to get that out and make sure that people
ends
voices.
gerrymandering. It puts a stop to gerrymandering. It makes it to where candidates can only, or seated reps can only accept gifts of $5 or less from lobbyists, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Although, if you look at our state party or our state constitution, I believe it is, Winston Apple would know better. If you're watching Winston, shout out. It says that we're not allowed to accept anything from lobbyists. 0. So I don't even know why we're having to pass that, but let's do it anyway.
Yeah,
let's do it anyway and get money out of politics because it has far too much influence.
Yeah, let's put that right again. But yeah, so folks can come in the office, 3332 North 19th Street. From Tuesday to Thursday, we're here from 12 to 8 on Fridays. From 9 to 5, we canvass. You can come in any day to canvass or phone bank. But we usually have like a big canvas on Saturdays where we've been having these chat chill canvases. Our last speaker was Bruce Franks, and of course, he can bring the fire. But idea is to, have an elected official in front of you. If it's your elected official or not, put an elected in front of constituents, them talking about an important issue within our party, and then pushing people out to canvass around those 3 issues as we're getting close to the election. So it's some exciting stuff going on. I'm excited. We got some plans for this office.
Very cool.
The People's Office. This is, even though it's Missouri Democratic Party regional office, this is the People's Office, trying to make this a place that benefits everybody. If it's candidates, community.
I raised an eyebrow. There we go. Double eyebrow raise. The People's Office.
The People's Office.
That's exactly right. At 3332
North 19th Street.
North 19th Street. And what's the phone number here for anybody who wants to reach out?
Oh, man, I have to call for myself.
It reads Missouri Democratic Party Office on Rasheen's phone. So if you get Rasheen's phone...
314-704-5007. So that's what you give me.
Bam! Out of nowhere. Yeah. Out of nowhere.
I did pull up some good stuff that came out of the
So let's talk
platform.
about that. Let's kind of go down the list. $15 an hour minimum wage is now in the Missouri Democratic Party platform.
It should have been about time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Time.
What's the next one? We'll go back and forth.
Okay, Medicaid expansion.
It's now in the Missouri Democratic Party platform. Medicaid for all healthcare system is now in the Missouri Democratic Party platform. Look at that.
Yeah.
It's happening, folks.
The DACA program.
The Black Lives Matter movement and an end to institutional racism.
Oh, I passed that one. That was the one you were supposed to do. The passage of Mona. The passage of Mona.
Explain what that is.
I was going to ask. Mona is
the non-discrimination thing. So now they can't discriminate, right? Somebody shout out.
Give us a little help on the Mona.
I do have, well, go ahead and finish the list, guys.
DACA, passage of Mona, closing corporate tax loopholes to ensure big businesses pay their fair share.
The end of monetary minimum sentences. Mandatory sentences.
Common sense gun laws like keeping guns out of the hands of domestic abusers and reinstating the assault weapons ban.
The legalization of marijuana.
Kudos.
Isn't that going to be on the ballot? There's like three different initiatives.
I believe that's for medical. However, in the city of St. Louis, what just happened?
They decriminalize it
up to 100 grams, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so that's like 3 ounces, right?
Yeah, that's
It's a
hopefully,
fairly large amount.
yeah. Hopefully, law enforcement actually follow the rules, and
We'll see.
Yeah.
Oh, move down. All right, let's see. What's the next one?
yeah.
Abiding by the DNC's corporate money ban. Nice.
There we go.
That's awesome.
That's some good stuff in there.
Absolutely. Now we better look up what Mona is, because, yeah, if I ever don't know anything right off the bat, I do think it's the non-discrimination.
It is. In the meantime, though,
Mm-hmm.
Somebody said that they're having a hard time getting people to understand, especially poor people, to understand that their votes do matter and that they do make a difference. What are some things that we can do as young Democrats to change their mind, to show them otherwise?
Walk the walk. Walk the walk. But you are the guest, so we're going to
Well,
defer
basically,
this
it's
to
how do
you.
we get people to
Yeah.
vote?
And this is we could tag team on this, because as you're out knocking doors, I'm sure you get people that kind of feel not super engaged. But I think the first thing is we gotta.
I'm actually going to let you start it because I'm going to be right back.
Okay. First thing we gotta do
Live,
is
folks.
we're live. It's a turn to the Sheen Beam show. The first thing we gotta do, I think, is we cannot wait till election time to continue to ask these same questions of how do we engage folks that are not engaged. Because if we're trying to do it around election time, our sole purpose is not really trying to engage them, but trying to engage them to be a vote. And those conversations are different because you're intentionally not really trying to engage someone because you want them to be part of the process. But we got a big election. We got to get no on Prop A, which it is important. A lot of these issues are important, but we're failing people because in these off elections or when the election's not happening, we're not going out just having a block party. That's the thing. We don't have to make everything so political. That's why, I'm happy once again with this office that after the election we'll be able to do some real work in the community, figuring out what it is, what are the issues that maybe resonate in their neighborhood that is not on the ballot. And it's not always about a candidate. I think pushing issues and not pushing a face, not pushing vote for me because I'm going to do this, or vote for me, but actually what are the things that you care about. So I think the way we do it is on off election years, making politics maybe fun again and not just always so political where it's coming to this meeting or, learn about minimum wage. And the issues to us are like that we know they're devastating. And if it don't pass, it hurts poor people even more. But it's a reason why, they felt disengaged. It's a reason why for maybe 8-10 elections, no one came and knocked on their door so they don't feel like the process is important, right? So starting on off years when we don't have election and doing just things in communities that have already been pulled away from resources and pulled away from opportunities and been oppressed by the system, doing things that maybe not always be so political, but building those relationships, saying, hey, I want you to be part of this because I care about you and I care about your community. I care about your neighborhood because your neighborhood affects my neighborhood. And once we have that mind frame as like a one, understanding that, you just can't come in saying, oh, especially I'm going to be real, right? As a white man, like I want to come in Paul McKee style and fix up the neighborhood. That's not the model, but, coming in more of a, I just want to help out. How do we organize together? Me being your brother, because this isn't an ally. We're brothers and sisters, in my opinion. Me being your brother or your sister, being that support. So,
Absolutely. The big word that you brought up is community. We need to build communities. That's a big solution, as far as I'm concerned, for not just winning elections, but for actually engaging people. Like you said, we have to mobilize, we have to organize, absolutely. We have to do that around the issues. But the building a community part, I've been telling everybody for over a year, and it feels like I'm the only one saying it and screaming it in my echo chamber sometimes to, situations where it's fallen on deaf ears. But if we want people to rally around us, we have to have rallies. Mm-hmm. If we want people to walk with us, we have to walk the walk. We have to vote in the way and speak to the things that we're going to vote for. Say if we're candidates, we have to speak to the things that we're going to do. And if we're seated representatives, we have to vote the way that we spoke to how we were going to do things. So it's really just being real. getting back to being real, getting back to building real relationships, and getting back to building a community around things that are important to that community, because none of us can do it alone.
Yeah.
None of us can do it alone.
And understanding that the education piece is going to be, each community is different, right? Each person's different. But the education piece is going to be important, and that takes time. And you got to understand that everyone, and when I say you, I'm not saying you in the audience, but just in general, folks got to understand, that everyone's not at the same playing field, which we hear that all the time. But I think I can just go for myself. I remember getting involved in all these different things a lot. A lot of people be like, "Oh, Rasheen, this, you're so articulate," but I know I probably didn't know really what right to work was, or what these things was, and wouldn't say anything because of I don't want to be that one person in the room. So educating each other, not talking down on folks, and being understanding that in itself is a huge process of making sure that people are engaged, that they're educated. And that they're not educated in a talk down type of manner, but they're educated in a way of hey, we all started at one point of not knowing what these issue was, or not knowing how to run a campaign, or not knowing how to do.
We just had to define Mona.
Yeah. Literally looking it up.
Literally. So, and of course we knew what it was when we were discussing it, but it didn't jump out to us as Mona. Yeah, the Missouri Non-Discrimination Act. There it is.
Boom.
Mona. But when I first went into Tri-County in 2016 to get the Tri-County labor endorsement, I didn't know exactly what a prevailing wage was. I asked them. I asked them to explain it to me. I just know that we need stronger unions. I know we need better wages and worker protections, and that's some big reasons that I am extremely pro-union. And I'm really against multinational corporations who offshore the American dream. Exactly. That's a quote.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is a quote.
End quote.
And so, and even right to work, I'm going to some union homes that the wife or husband asks me what Prop A is exactly. Mm-hmm. And they have a Prop A sign in their yard. But they have to get clarification, and there's going to be a lot of that, especially when the Republicans are going to push back in a big way and spend a whole lot of that dark money that they get all the time.
It's coming.
To try to fool people into believing. The wording is really funny, too. No one should be forced to pay union membership dues as a reason for employment. Mm-hmm. No one should be forced to pay dues. But it sounds kind of reasonable if you're somebody who's going to be working at a McDonald's, or if you're somebody who's going to be working at a place where unions really don't play in that ball field. But once you realize that it's really a union busting technique, it's really to try to get it to where unions aren't able to make as much money. Unions aren't able to have the power that they once had, and still the power of unions are people. It's the people, the membership.
That's the union
is coming together. So people have to get clarification for a lot of different things, and I do find myself spending a lot of time trying to educate people at the doors who may not know some of these things. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the hurdles I see that we have to get around in order to earn votes in a continuous manner. And we also have to make sure that we don't vote for people who are going to try so hard to work across the aisle with people who are not going to work with us and the things that are important to the people who are important to us, that they lose sight of what got them here, why they're here, and what they're supposed to fight for. So how do we get elected officials there that are going to stand by the people and stay standing by the people and not corporate interest? I think one solution is voting in poor people. voting in people of the community who looks like the community, sounds like the community, and has similar experiences of the community that they're in. And I think a lot of poor people around Missouri would be better representatives than the ones we got in Jeff City for the most part.
I second that. Even when you look at, what just happened in New York City, the Congress or Democratic Congresswoman nominee, or soon to be, the elected Democratic Congresswoman, but a year, 6 months before she just was elected, she was a bartender.
Yeah.
Living just in an apartment in New York City, trying to get by one day at a time.
Picasso.
Yeah. So it's,
most people don't even know that. A year ago, she was a bartender.
A bartender.
Think about that. A year ago, she was a bartender, and she just last Tuesday defeated the 10-term congressman from New York, the fourth most powerful Democratic congressperson in Congress.
He's going to be the next speaker.
Who was slated to possibly replace Nancy Pelosi as the next Speaker of the House. Yeah. A bartender did that, out-organized and out-mobilized, and is now fighting for things that people are calling socialism. They need to understand that there's a difference between democratic socialism and red socialism or red communism that for many years was maybe something to be afraid of. But now they need to realize that democratic socialism is, when you think of democratic socialism, you need to think about our railroad system. You need to think about our roads being created, our waste management systems. You need to think about all of these socialist programs. Most of these people who are like, oh, socialism is bad, will throw all of their possible funding and want us as a nation to throw all of our possible funding into the military-industrial complex and say and scream at the top of their lungs, socialism is bad, military-industrial complex, let's make it rain, without realizing that our military is our largest socialist program in America. Mm-hmm. And if that's operating correctly, imagine if some other sectors were handled with social, what's the word I'm looking for here? With social necessity in mind.
Yeah.
With social necessity in mind. So how do we keep more people healthy? How do we keep more people educated? How do we keep more people fed, clothed, housed? If we could concentrate on that and start investing some of our tax money and get a little return on investment on those things, then people would be freed to innovate.
We would be such a different society. Like you said, if folks was closed and fed, just thinking of the unhoused community, because they're part of our community. They're not homeless. They're part of our community, and it's a reason they got to this situation. And most likely is due to not us or me directly, but us as a family, us part of this, all different communities. But we would be so much in a different place. Imagine if people were able to make livable wages. Like it's not going out and buying a new Bugatti or going out and trying to make sure that they have the latest clothes. They're going to probably be paying their bills. They're going to if it is clothes, it's clothes that they're lacking on their kids, generating money back into the economy that's going to help us. These things are ridiculous. It's easy.
Investing in our future.
Investing in the people.
What a novel idea that is.
Man.
They got unlimited money for war. They have unlimited money for tax breaks for the 1% and the billionaire class. But there's people sleeping on benches next to the White House. I was there twice in the last 3 months, people sleeping on benches next to the White House. That's absolutely ridiculous. Yeah. If I was in the White House, there is no way that I could not walk out to that bench and be like, come on in, we got a bed. We got a bed. And if we don't have enough beds, we'll find a cot. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't get it.
Tupac said it best. They got money for wars, but they can't feed the poor. Like, it don't add up. There's no excuse to some of the humane things that we're doing if it's not giving people the adequate money that they deserve so they can pay their bills, if it's separating kids from their families, which is just, I can't even believe that's you got to take like a step back on that one, because I can't even believe that's happening in today's
And I don't think anybody could have ever imagined that that's what was going to happen. The only other they're going to throw out, well, Obama did it. No, the pictures that you see from 2014 were from a sudden influx of unaccompanied minors. That doesn't happen all the time. The people that are the thing that is happening now is that families who are coming to our borders legally, seeking legal asylum, are being separated from their children and held for processing. This is no different than what was happening during the concentration camps or during the Japanese internment camps on American soil. Those were on American soil. Maybe not the concentration camps, Hitler, but the Japanese internment camps were on American soil. And so that's happening again. And we never could have fathomed that was going to happen again. I thought we got past it. I thought we learned compassion, humanity. And then Trump happened.
45. Yeah.
So, I mean, where are we going from here? We have got to not only win the midterm, but then we've got to take the White House back in 2020. And how are we going to do that with a party who seems to be at more odds with themselves sometimes than the opposition?
Mm-hmm. I think a little bit of that, and trust me, not in coming in, if anybody knows me, I probably also, I wouldn't say fought the party coming in, but, being a little active, going against the political machine that was tied more to the party. Definitely we always didn't see eye to eye, but I do think that a little bit of what's happening hopefully is healthy as long as it doesn't create division, because I think sometimes you need something to shake up. You need something to make people feel uncomfortable. You need, I don't want to say like tension, but, in a relationship, arguments are because of there's a disagreement on both sides. And the argument is meant to, hopefully, you argue and figure out what the issue is, and then we come to some type of conclusion.
Without pressure, there is no diamond.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
And that's true, too, yeah. But hopefully, I'm happy that our party is in this kind of questioning state, like, is this a new, or what's going on, right? And not just staying the same old complacent, not winning. We're barely winning now, but we got to take those too. We got to take some wins we're getting.
Here's one thing I saw that was really scary. Since Ocasio won, there was a meme made of a tweet that someone put out, apparently a hardcore Democrat, saying, with Ocasio winning, we're taking it too far to the left. We need a party of, I want to say Joe Manchin, and I'll be wrong, so don't hold that to me, but we need to be a party of this type of Democrat. Bloomberg? I think it was Bloomberg. I think it was Michael Bloomberg. Anyway, we need to be the party of Bloomberg. And then on the other side of the meme shows an invitation from Michael Bloomberg for a Republican representative to a fundraiser that he's hosting. So how do we win back the people who are still trying to prop up that party that's kind of not working in its own best interest, that's kind of working against itself?
I think we call them out, but we keep moving. We keep moving because we call them out, and we hold them accountable, and
then we keep on keeping on.
And we keep on keeping
because
on.
If we stop because our feelings are hurt.
The ones in our party, which are still in our party, right? The ones in our party will see that the party is changing, and that the party is being that party that it's still the party that they love. It's still the party that fights for people. It's just in a different way, and it's caught up to today's timing. It's caught up to today's oppression, because Jim Crow has only changed, right? It's not fully gone, but it's changed away in its shape and form. So that's what we're doing as a party. We're changing the way that we operate in our shape and form, and I think it sucks when we have folks that won't catch up to time with us. But I think we keep moving forward, because right now the energy and the momentum is in our favor. In our favor, not trying to divide us within our party, but it was in our favor of folks in the party.
No, it's in the favor of progress. It's not ours or theirs, not me, us. right? It's about progress, and how are we going to move forward and fight for the most people the best way that we can. And until we all can come together, there's going to be some reckoning. There are going to be debates and fights within that. Some people may not stick around, may not survive the evolution of the party, and that's okay. That is okay. Some people can either operate where their beliefs are, or maybe there's some other things that they're passionate about, but to try to prevent the party from progressing, I think is going to be shooting ourselves in the foot. And we've been seeing that a whole lot. I was under the understanding that DNC members weren't allowed to endorse candidates prior to the primary until I saw that Tom Perez endorsed Andrew Cuomo over Cynthia Nixon in New York. So it's a tough call, and I think you said it best. We take those hits and we keep on keeping on, doing the best that we possibly can. And
we learn from those hits. We learn. Okay, so that's how it went this go round. So either we need someone getting ready next go round to challenge the person, or we need to move left because we seen when we did that didn't operate. So it sucks, especially when you're a party of losing, and sometimes you're losing within your party too. But I think things are, like you say, on the up and up for progress, up and up for change, and it's coming.
Yeah, I feel it in the air. The thing is that a lot of the progress that I'm particularly talking about, and I make no bones about it, is the progress that Bernie ran on in 2016, the platform and the policies that Bernie ran on in 2016. And the interesting thing I found out about that is that in 2016, it wasn't. Of course, I know that a lot of people were just in it for Bernie, but most of Bernie's supporters were there because of the policies and because of the platform, and it had very little to do with Bernie himself, other than the fact that he could explain these policies very well, or rate them very well, and had the ability to stay on point for the policies and for the platform. So that was a very powerful thing. But when you find out that more people voted for him, and again I say his policies and his platform in 2016 than Hillary and Donald Trump combined, 18 to 25, it tells me that these policies and these platforms are inevitable. This is coming. This is going to come. This is our next evolution as a party and as a people in the United States of America, and it's time we all start working together and make those things happen. People need health care. They need education. Yeah. We need criminal justice reform, because a lot of the issues that have come, especially in the inner cities, is that there are so many laws and people getting locked up, mass incarceration, to the point where there's a lot of single-parent homes. There's a lot of homes that just have a mom or just have a dad because the alternative got locked up. And now that single parent has to hold 2 or 3 jobs to make ends meet, creating almost a parentless situation for their child. And now that child is kind of raising itself, maybe going to grandma's, maybe, things like that. And how can we expect people that don't have the same opportunities as someone like in the suburbs or in rural regions that do have a community, because there's only 900 people there and everybody knows everybody, to be able to give them the tools that they need, and to be able to take away the root cause, which is mass incarceration and systemic racism and locking people up for nonviolent crimes, which is over 50% of all people in our prison system are locked up for nonviolent crimes where no one was hurt.
Need to end the cash bail system also.
Again, all right, throw it out there.
No, yeah, I was just saying as you was on the justice reform, throwing out the end the cash bail system, but and as you was mentioning,
explain that a little bit. In the cash bail system, that's just going to sound like word salad to some people. So
before I forget that one, and as you was talking though, it made me think about all the things you were saying, and it made me go back to a previous question of why people don't vote. All those reasons right there, on and feeling like they have nothing to win, but ending the cash bail system, there's folks locked up right now that are literally locked up for the smallest things. I'm not going to say it's I wouldn't consider it like a crime. I think we need to be helping people instead of always punishing people. But small things, if it's child support or if it's running a red light and got pulled over and now they're in jail for $200 or $500 and they don't have the money to actually be able to get out. So ending that system so that folks aren't being incarcerated and spending months and months and literally years in jail when their bond was only $500. So what have you done? You didn't spent 6 months in jail. Like you say, either if they were with somebody.
So, not to cut you off, but to level that out and to really paint that picture for people. So there are people who say they run a red light. They get $200 bail or $200 ticket, and they can't pay it. Then they go to jail, and they still can't pay that. And then being in jail costs them money, right?
Mm-hmm. You got to get commissary. If your loved ones want to communicate with you, because my brother's currently there now, and it takes a toll on the family. The money for attorneys or money for if you want to speak to your loved ones, all that. It's a business. It's a business now, and they're ranking in on individuals and families off of this business, but it's a lot. And
now they saw that it works, and at least it works for their profit margins, and now they're doing it on the border. Now that's exactly what they're doing on the border. They're causing big business on the border. Millions of dollars are going to private prisons with people being detained at the border and families being separated at the border. So, I mean, it's a rough road that we're having to come back from, man.
It's a wicked system, but it's so easy. Well, let me not say easy. The solutions, like you say, as we talk about some of these things that can be done, if are done, would not just even benefit Democrats. It would benefit Republicans. Like
the entire nation.
The things that we're saying to change. That's what about our parties. We're saying we want everyone to be created equal. And then the other side is just saying, no, we want this select class. The Tiki Torch guys that went marching on Charlotte. They just want white young men to be elite and not immigrants or people of color. Like, what we're asking for is to help everybody, even when they're trying to pass legislation that hurts a select few. Jeez, yeah. We're working on it.
So let's actually get into that. Let's get into. So I think that a lot of what happened in 2016 and a lot of what caused Trump was the fact that for 8 years a black man was our president, and it scared the hell out of a lot of white people.
Oh yeah,
it scared the hell out of a lot of white people, and then there's a pushback from it,
and for. Oh, go ahead. Actually, go ahead. Yeah.
And that pushback started in a lot of ways with Trump, because once he got in there, that empowered that ideology.
Yep.
That empowered the things that he was saying. And I've got Mexican blood in me. And when he announced in his first speech that all Mexicans are rapists, he slapped me right in the face right off the bat. I didn't like him well before he ever announced. I didn't like him during Apprentice. I didn't like him way back in the day. He's always felt and smelled sleazeball to me. So once he ran for president and then he dropped that bomb on his opening speech, I was like, no, this cannot happen, because if it does, I called it then. Because if it does, it's going to empower racism in our country, and he's not going to make America great again. He's going to make America hate again. And that's exactly what's happening before our very eyes. Now, the interesting thing, I think, is that they're outing themselves.
Yeah.
They're outing themselves, and they're not even wearing hoods anymore with their little tiki torches from Menards.
Yeah, they're taking the hoods off, and and that's also the scariest thing, is that they're
so emboldened.
That they're so emboldened, and that they don't want to hide, and that for me, of like you say, of someone who the president has talked down on a race, if it's been Mexicans or if it's been African Americans or just immigrants all in general, which you take everybody who's kind of like not white, and even people that are white have, like you say, some of that descent. But it really is, and especially for me as a young person, it's eye-awakening of like what this country or how people really feel about race. And, we talk about it and we have conversations about race and Ferguson, plenty of conversations I was at. But to now have somebody in a position of power that's taken this, wand and saying, let race drive all your hatred, it's...
Another thing that's interesting to me is the religious aspect of him. Because he could say something that's extremely racist, but then appeal to that religious evangelical sect of our society. And in that, it's even scarier because that not only can it be well hidden, but you can have people of color who are evangelicals. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, they're not only voting against their own best interest, but they're trickling this down to the people who look up to them, and obviously voting against their own best interest. But the religious aspect of it is the scariest thing to me, because not ever in my life did I ever hear Donald Trump mention the Holy Bible once until he ran for president. And now all of a sudden he's Mr. Super Christian, or extremely religious when he doesn't abide by anything. He says he's Christian. He's not at all Christ-like. If you read any of the Bible, you would know that. So
he can't be the things that
how did he fool people like that,
man? I think people just they just made an exception for him. Like, even with the whole Russia and him hanging out with North Korea, like, 8 years ago when Obama did that, they was like, oh my God, how dare him? You're meeting with all our enemies, and people have done horrible things to other country. And then when President Trump does, it's like, oh, he deserves a Nobel Peace Prize. I think it's just people, like you say, are just so fed up and tired, or fed up of a black man that was in power and don't care. They're new champions here, and it's scary because there's nothing that, even with the whole stuff that's going on with separations of family, his poll ratings barely move. It's like almost nothing he can do that his base will not be, not all his base, because I know the farmers are getting pretty pissed off with him, but
well they should be.
They should be, especially Missouri is actually having a back effect on him, which hopefully it happens to turn out to be in 2020. But it's it's crazy. It's scary, and it makes me think also the things we're doing in our base. If it's really, because we have to feed. There's anger right now. That we need to feed that. But is that really?
We need to feel that.
Feed that. Like, we need to make sure that people that are angry, that feel like the president is attacking them and pulling back their rights. Like, we as a party should be trying to focus on that and uplift that. But it's almost, is that really making an outcome on what he's doing? Because everything he seems to do, it's like nothing hits him. Like, his approval, nothing. It's so. It's scary to think of where we are right now, and even how the media on Fox, we always knew Fox and Friends are like super horrible. And
honestly, until 2016, I didn't realize how bad they were.
Oh yeah, they ramped it up.
I didn't realize how bad they were.
Fox News is on steroids now.
Yeah,
and they're not holding back, and it's like Sean
Hannity,
breaking news. They have no interest
in truth and honesty. They have no interest in integrity.
It's funny he don't call that the fake news, and that's like the.
Yeah, that is the most fake news. Yeah. Like, literally, they've done studies on this thing, and their accuracy is at around like 28% or something, or 32%. It's really low.
Sometimes I watch. It dreads me to do it, but I watch just to see how like crazy these people are. Like, the first 5 minutes of Hannity's show is just like, that's all you need right there of craziness.
Yeah. Yeah, and we watch it, and we're guilty of it as well, but that's more almost opposition research. I want to see what they're telling their fan base in order to be able to counter that, because I know that there are large swaths of people who are in my district who are watching that, and I want to be able to
tell the truth of the lies.
Be honest about those things. Yeah, I want to be able to counter those lies at the door. With facts and with evidence, and be able to back up my story when they're not backing theirs up, and they can call themselves Fox News and be an entertainment company. It's a scary time we're living in, Rasheen.
Yeah.
It is a scary time. So you went from activism into the Democratic Party, but somewhere along the way, you became Fifth Ward Alderman.
Oh, Fifth Ward Committeeman.
There you go. Fifth Ward Committeeman.
It was kind of during Ferguson that woke my eyes up to, we were out protesting in Ferguson, trying to also use some of that energy to politics and trying to get, some folks on the council board, because at the timing there was, I think, one person of color on the Ferguson City Council. Majority of Ferguson is African American. One side, South Florissants, where majority white folks live, and then on West Florissant was the majority of the black community lives. But on the city council board there was one, so we kind of shifted our energy with trying to help get some folks elected. That's actually when Wesley Bell was first elected back a little after the uprising, and him and Ella Jones and another African American member were the first three elected on that board of people of color. But I was looking at Ferguson and everything that was going on, and we talked a lot about representation in Ferguson and all of that. And then I look back at my own community, and I seen that it was people that was of color and black. So you would seem, you're getting represented, but that doesn't. When people say representation, I think that's one element of it. It's also doing for the neighborhood and doing for the community. And it was one family, from committee man to committee woman to alderwoman, all the way up to state rep, that had control of the whole ward. So I looked and I was like, I'm happy to be out here in Ferguson, but I need to be trying to make some change in my own community. And had some meetings with folks in the neighborhood, said we need to do something about that, but we also need to create a neighborhood organization. The organization kind of fell off, but we ended up deciding that myself was going to run as committee man, Megan Betts would run as committee woman. And along the way, found out Bruce Franks was running for state rep. Quick funny story about that. We met in Ferguson, but me and Bruce really never had too much of a relationship until there was a protest that took place for Von Derek Myers off of Market Street down at the courthouse. And I seen Bruce's uncle talking to the police officers, and it's Ferguson, everyone's really intense and angry, and emotions are running wild. So I seen this uncle talking to police officer, and I'm like, that guy right there, he's a traitor. He's working with police. And someone go and told Bruce, was like, he's talking about your uncle. And Bruce come over and is like, that's my uncle you're talking about. And I'm like, I don't care. He's talking to police. He's a traitor or whatnot. And me and Bruce had some words. And it's funny now because that's like my big brother. And we ran this whole fight together against the establishment, where we had to take our race. Not only did we have to challenge the Board of Elections, we also had to challenge the people that we were running against, and had to take our race to court.
Which was who? Let's name names.
Let's
talk about it.
Name it. So Bruce ran against former state rep Penny Hubbard. She also was a committee woman. Rodney Hubbard Sr. was a committee man, and his daughter Tamika Hubbard was an alder woman. So they had it wrapped up in the bag. But
and this was kind of a St. Louis dynasty. Calling it what it.
It's a St. Louis dynasty. It's very known in St. Louis. If it's the Hubbards, and all families are not always the same, but the Hubbards, the Villas, the Oldenburg, or the Villas, the Bosleys, the Conways. These families have been in St. Louis for a while. Slay. It's kind of a thing in St. Louis. It'd be like pass the tiki torch shown to your family member, which if you're doing for the neighborhood, that's one thing. I don't think you need to have complete control either. If it's two siblings, okay, or something like that. But when you have complete control over one community because you feel your family can do it best, this is not like a dictatorship. So we took both of our races to court. Historically challenged both of them and won both of them.
Now yours for the 5th Ward Committeeman, and Bruce's for the 78th State House.
Yep. And yeah, mine's was the day of November 7th of 2016, or November 6th, the general election. So while everyone was, sad because we lost across the state house and Donald Trump was elected.
You were ecstatic.
I was celebrating, and
right on.
but that was a tough fight, to lose by 54 votes and to challenge,
take it to court,
challenge it, win. It means even more to.
Now, how were you able to explain to everyone how you were able to take that to court? What was the impropriety that came about then?
So living in the neighborhood, I knew of the Hubbards just because I grew up in the community my whole life. I knew of the Hubbards and I knew of the absentee game that they play. When they're in elections, absentees spike up to about 60%. When they're not, they're hovering about 18%. So, talking with Bruce and Megan, I was like, hey, we should probably get above this curve. So we got an attorney and tried to get information from the Board of Elections, but the board is like, we're not giving you no information because of relationships, cahoots, whatever, right? So they wouldn't give it to us all the way leading up to the court. To the courts, said that you had to give them that information. But
so it got subpoenaed.
It got subpoenaed. They literally would not give it to us until it got subpoenaed. But we were able to take them to court on absentee irregularities, that absentees were not done in the proper way that they should have been done in, and also stories of individuals saying that they were approached by the campaign directly, a worker of the campaign directly to help get the absentee process started and to actually vote during that whole process, in which you can help somebody fill out for absentee application, but when it comes to assisting, nobody from a candidate's campaign can do that aspect of it. So it was about 102 or 4 votes, absentee ballots that was not done correctly, that came directly out of the same area, right around the corner, 4 or 5 from one home. So
it ended up that you actually won by 50, right?
Probably even more than that. The second time we won by a landslide, thanks to all the people in the neighborhood that believed in me and in the campaign.
Just to be clear, so then it pushed it to a special election.
Yep, so then it pushed it to a special election, which they tied my election to the general election, because my court case ruling was probably 2 weeks after Bruce's. Bruce's had to be done earlier because of the committeeman's just a party position or party seat, so we don't have a general election. It's just in August. But with Bruce's, he had to go to the general as the nominee to figure out who would be the nominee, so he had to have it sooner to get the official nominee. Mine's was, I had a little bit more timing where I could, if I wanted to take it to court and challenge it or not.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Very cool.
And then after I won, I became the youngest African-American Democratic committeeman in St. Louis history.
Is that what landed you the young Dem? Young Democrat of the Year?
I'm still trying to figure that out. The way that happened, also, a quick story was kind of cool. So I had never met Steven, and maybe 3 months before then, he hit me up and was like, hey, I want to talk to you about St. Louis committee stuff, Democrat committee stuff. So me and him sit down, we're talking about Central Committee, Fifth Ward stuff, and then he asked if I was going to the Truman Dinner. I'm like, no, those tickets are, expensive. I can't pay for them.
That's why I didn't go.
Yeah, they're kind of,
$250 a pop.
If you can find a sponsor, just saying, So, and then Rosetta 2 weeks later hit me up. Rosetta Okenser, good friend, hit me up. Was like, hey, you want a ticket to the Truman Dinner? I was like, yeah, I want to go, but I don't have any money, so I can't pay you. She's like, don't worry about it. I got you. Just, if you can go, make sure. And then it was all part of the bigger setup to surprise me with Democrat of the Year. So that was...
well, now you heard why we weren't there.
Yeah.
Right? But congratulations, man.
Yeah.
Congratulations
thank
in person.
Yeah.
Let's plug the office again. Missouri Democrat. Let's plug the website, MissouriDemocrats.org.
Yep.
You can definitely go there. You can also, if you're a candidate or if you're thinking about being a candidate, check out traindemocrats.org, I do believe it is. And if that's not right, you can go ahead and Google it. Just Google Train Democrats and you can get in there. You got to sign up and all that good stuff. But they've got some great resources, great materials on there. The office here, you can stop in. I'm gonna let you plug that.
Yeah.
It's at 3332 North 19th Street.
Yeah. 3332 North 19th Street.
What are the hours and all that?
So Tuesday through Thursday, we're here from 12 to 8. Friday, we're here at 9 to 5, and also Saturday, 9 to 5. But if you reach out to me, my cell phone number is 314-704-5007. Say, hey, you want to do an early bird canvas and you want to come in like at 10 to get a packet to go out at 11 during Tuesday and Thursdays. You shoot me a call, I'll easily be able to come to the office. We can make that happen. You know, this is a people's office. If you want to have an event here, we have 2 sides of the office. We're trying to make this accessible to everybody, make this a place that folks can use it to hold meetings. The high school Young Dems and have their meetings here, mobilized and done an event here. So this is the way we're going to win.
For the most part, it's grassroots. They're taking furniture donations. If you've got file cabinets, if you've got tables, desks, things of that sort, they would love to have it. What are some other things you guys might need?
Yeah. Always snacks, too. We can go wrong with snacks.
Big fan of snacks over here.
Big fan of snacks. Water.
You guys got a fridge, freezer?
We got fridge, so when canvassers go out, I usually try to keep that stack with water because it's hot right now. Literally, a guy, Steve, who's super volunteer, was in about an hour ago to get a packet to head out. So just trying to make sure we keep water in there so folks don't fall out. But
you guys have a freezer?
We don't have a freezer.
They need a freezer.
We just got a freezer
because we need popsicles for our volunteers.
Yes.
This is important.
Yes. And any other thing, if it's just like pack of pencils or whatever. But please come by the office. Just, come check it out if you want to see it. This is going to be here for at least a year. We're trying to make sure that it's going to be here beyond the year, but we wanted to make sure that it was going to be guaranteed a year. So we're doing the work, and we're trying to make sure that folks are part of the table as we're doing the work, because the only way we're going to win, like my brother said, is if we do it together.
That's exactly right. We got to organize, we got to mobilize, we got to make things happen. They're not just going to have it for us. No blue wave or any type of wave is going to happen on its own. We're going to have to make that happen, and we're going to have to make that happen as a collective, together. Before we get out of here, make sure that you check out Next Gen Dems. You can check it out on iTunes, Facebook, YouTube, podcast.com even. And we are also in the Twitterverse as NXT Gen Dems.
Go like and follow right now.
Go like and follow. Check it out. And let us know if we could be doing things a little different. Give us some feedback on how you'd like to see things. If you want a different host, we might not be able to work that out, but Chrissy from time to time, the wonderful Chrissy Wylde, has been a stand-in for hosting duties. She did a all-women's panel not long ago.
That was amazing.
We're going to be doing more of those, too, where Chrissy hosts the thing, and I just do the behind-the-scenes role like this, but I'm not going to hold the phone for an entire live video. I'll get a tripod. Yeah, that's right. You got some guns on you.
They may be like, we want Chrissy. If you have her too, in front of the camera too much, is that great? So,
that's okay.
Yeah,
that's okay. Totally okay. There's a lot of people that are really excited about the show. I'm glad that it's back. I'm glad that you were our big return episode.
Thank you.
Tell about your personal social medias and all that.
Yeah,
that's twice. That happened twice. So these chairs, my daughter thinks are rocking chairs, and she just keeps knocking them in the floor.
I wish you could see her face right now. She got her hands on her hip like, Dad, you shouldn't be telling this.
And the last time that she did it, she jumped up, looked at me, and goes, "Well."
Yeah. You could follow. On 3 legs?
If those chairs were on 3 legs, you probably wouldn't be able to sit in them. But back to the show, you can check out the Missouri Democratic Party on Twitter. At MoDem Party. You can check out their website at MissouriDemocrats.org and on Facebook at MoDem Party as well. My personal is Curtis Wylde. You can check that out. You can go to Wylde for Rep. I'm running for state representative in District 107 in the Missouri State House against Representative Nick Schroer, who I am now officially calling the Prince of PAC Money. And he earned it in not this previous quarter, but the quarter before that, he had all PAC money. There was one individual there was one human being that donated. The rest was all PAC money. So I called him the Prince of PAC money. District 107, reach out to me, wildforthepeople.com. Next Gen Dems is all over in all social media platforms, and I definitely think that you should download it on iTunes, because that's the easiest way to really listen to it as you're going down the road, as you're hanging out, because we don't do short episodes here. We really sit down, we chit chat, we have a conversation, and we talk about the important things that are important to you. So check us out, Next Gen Dems. Come into the office, visit Rasheen. 33 North 19th Street. Right here in St. Louis. So we look forward to you guys coming in. We look forward to you guys getting involved, mobilize, organize, and make this thing happen, guys. Thank you. This has been Next Gen Dems, and I'm your host, Curtis Wylde, and this is Rasheen Aldridge.
See you guys.